Hey everyone, in March I put out a video outlining some things I would have said on a Piers Morgan panel I was asked to participate in. It was the third video I've made regarding trans issues, and just like the other two, it pissed off a lot of people. And by people, I mean transphobes. One person who didn't like it is a guy named Warren Smith. He sucks a lot, so let's talk about him. Looking at the output of his channel, it's a complete dumpster fire that seems to serve as a perpetual audition for a job at the Daily Wire. If I were to describe him in a nutshell, I would go with Dollar Store Jordan Peterson. The name of the channel is already bad enough. Secret Scholar Society, you guys. Shh. It's a secret. Don't tell those woke libtards about all the super awesome truth over here, or they'll get triggered. Taking a look at the content, we find mindless defenses of revolting Zionists like Douglas Murray and Bill Maher, brethren in bullshit like Charlie Kirk, Michael Knowles, and Ben Shapiro, whining about Marxism, DEI, those elite professors. He's essentially a conservative propaganda greatest hits jukebox. And of course, his own origin story regarding losing his teaching job that we don't need to actually get into is just a sloppily recycled version of that for every other conservative mouthpiece you've already heard of. The same one as Brett Weinstein, the same one as Jordan Peterson, which can be summarized as, I'm being canceled for my super awesome truth that the woke libtards can't handle. Please worship me, brainwashed bigots. How this formula is still working in 2025 is absolutely mystifying to me. Anyway, the video he did on me is called Professor Tries to Debunk Matt Walsh, and it backfires spectacularly. What is a woman? It's a short piece in which he tries to respond to all three of the trans videos I've done as though they're the same one, cutting between them haphazardly and with zero context. In the video, he essentially just does a long series of mental backflips to avoid the very clear points I'm making so that he can then pretend I'm not making any at all. Let's get started.
Professor Dave has 3.8 million followers on YouTube. Many claim that this is the individual who debunked Matt Walsh in What is a Woman?
People who don't know, you got into this a tiff or an argument, so to speak, online with Matt Walsh.
It went viral. Matt Walsh responded.
It contains a formidable argument against my position on gender ideology. One person, in fact, says that Professor Dave debunks my movie, What is a Woman?
Professor Dave responded to that.
It was insane. It was insane, the things he was saying, and I want to expose the script to people like that.
So I'm going to approach this as a blank slate and listen to what he has to say, and I'm really trying to follow along here.
As you will soon see, he goes as far out of his way as possible to ignore everything I say, on top of framing everything dishonestly, as he's already done here in this introduction. I made a video about trans people. In it, I mentioned Matt Walsh and a few other people in passing because most of the disinformation I was addressing stems from people like them, in which they instruct their followers to whine about number of genders and men having babies, and other things that only the most willfully ignorant, intellectually dishonest losers bring up. Matt's response was also profoundly dishonest, as it ignored all the points he would begrudgingly have to agree with so that he could frame my video as a direct response to his dumb movie, which it obviously wasn't. Warren maintains that framing because it's convenient to him as he tries to validate this ridiculous martyr narrative that these frauds espouse.
His argument is that gender identity is grounded in biology, which is interesting. Let's see what he does with that. He makes it clear, though, that we do not fully comprehend it.
And researchers are still working to understand the biological basis of gender identity.
Tomorrow, if I decide I am a woman, is that grounded in biology?
Right off the bat, he's fixating on a singular graphic from my first video because it was less precise than I would have liked it to be. Rather than neurochemistry, I should have more strongly stressed the concept of neuroanatomy, so not just brain chemistry, but brain structure. This is what determines gender identity, something which I made much more clear in the two subsequent videos on this topic. That will put the second point in context here. When he asks if he can just decide to be a woman, this is a profoundly stupid thing to say for two reasons. First, trans people don't decide to be trans. They're born that way because of the manner in which their brain develops in utero. Second, he is already conflating gender identity and sex, even after specifically flashing a graphic where I differentiate between the two. Transphobes whine about trans women deciding to be women and how they aren't really women because they're talking about sex, not gender identity. As I've stated a million times, trans women know that they are individuals born of male sex. These idiots and their followers are always having a never-ending argument with a position that nobody expresses. Deciding to be a woman means nothing because trans women do not decide to be trans, they acknowledge it and express it, and proclaiming female gender identity does not mean that they are not of male sex. What a train wreck.
The idea is that you're claiming what is a woman is just a word. Words can mean anything we want, and we can change those meanings. Well, that is an ideology.
No, it's just the way that words work. They are literally made-up sounds that mean what we decide they mean. And because language is often vague and imprecise, it has the potential to change to more accurately reflect our knowledge and understanding. Woman is a word. It means whatever we say it does, just like every other word in every language ever. The word woman has come to mean any adult of female gender identity.
Who decided that, though?
People who study this topic for a living. Does the general public take a vote on what physics terminology means? No. Physicists decide. You just don't like having to update your understanding of these concepts. But it's moot because, as I've already said multiple times, you aren't acknowledging what I'm saying about sex and gender identity and then refusing to refer to trans women as women. You aren't agreeing that a person can be of male sex and female gender identity, thus validating the biological basis of these two phenomena, and simply disagreeing with the choice of language. You and all your Daily Wire heroes are denying the concept of transness altogether and pretending it's some kind of mental illness or psychopathy, like what was done to gay people as recently as the middle of the 20th century.
But they are not literally women.
Well, woman is a word we made up. What do you mean? Do you mean sex? Do you mean gender? Do you want to, should we make up a new word for trans women? It's just language. It's just words we made up. You know what I mean?
Why aren't these words good enough to say, okay, you're a trans woman? The problem is that you're taking it a step further.
What step further? Why is this so hard for you people to understand? Why are you still acting like this label of trans woman implies that their genitals and chromosomes suddenly transform into something else? Nobody will take you seriously until you stop fighting against this non-existent phantom and have an adult conversation. There is no ideology except the conservative propaganda you push that aims to erase transness from the face of the earth.
This is the definition of an ideology, a movement to introduce this new use of language based on a set of ideas.
No, that's not what ideology means. You made that up out of thin air in order to pretend that knowing how to use words properly constitutes an ideology. This is what ideology means: a system of ideas and ideals, especially one which forms the basis of economic or political theory and policy. Kind of like your anti-trans ideology, which actually aims to harm trans people in an institutional manner, as opposed to people like me who are just explaining what trans people are in a scientific context. Get a grip.
You have made the argument that there is an objective neurochemical reality within the brain.
If they feel like they weigh 300 pounds and they objectively weigh 100 pounds, that's not the same thing as gender identity, which occurs exclusively in the brain.
Then how can it be biology? Is biology not objectively real?
Yes, biology is real, and perhaps one day we will reach a point where we can identify transness with a brain scan. Right now, we can't. I've mentioned this multiple times, so I'm not sure how you missed it while mashing up this bogus montage. That we aren't yet at the place where we can do a scan of someone's brain and conclusively identify the structures that make them trans doesn't mean that transness somehow isn't real or just as rooted in physical reality as those other things.
So now it is rooted in physical reality.
Oh, so you did find it, and yet you chose to whine about it anyway. That's pretty ridiculous. When have I ever claimed transness was not rooted in physical reality? I'll give you a hint: absolutely never, since that's what you morons say, and I'm the one debunking you by explaining how it is rooted in neuroanatomy, which is part of physical reality.
I could have sworn I heard you earlier.
Can I identify as Chinese if I'm white? No, your genome and birthplace exist in external reality.
I see a logical contradiction here, though.
No, you're just stupid. Your heredity is based on who your parents are. Your gender identity is based on brain structure. You have to work really hard to still not get it after I explained it in 3 videos. The ones you're still pretending are 1 video for some reason. Oh right, it's because you want to pretend it's all just one big response to your hero Matt Walsh so that people will click on it. Masculinization and feminization occur in the brain.
Interesting. He uses the word feminization, masculinization. So we're not born with a female brain or a male brain.
Yes, you are. This masculinization or feminization takes place in utero before you are born. Holy shit, you're bad at this.
It occurs throughout time. So does that mean it's a societal construct? If you are feminized, feminization occurs through your experience?
No, your social experiences do not physically mold the structure of your brain. Much of that is done in the womb before you know that society exists. Let me know when you're ready to talk about anything I've said instead of concocting these ridiculous straw men to respond to. On the contrary, people who object to this terminology typically do so on the basis of ignorance towards biology. I have yet to hear anyone reject these terms while accepting what we just described regarding sex and gender identity.
Really? Because I'm more than happy to do that. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
No, you're ignoring absolutely everything I'm explaining to you about biology so that you can reject the points I'm making and maintain your pseudo-intellectual facade. There is nobody I have ever encountered who says, yes, sex is this suite of genetic and anatomical characteristics, while gender identity is this largely neuroanatomical construct, and a trans person represents an instance in which they do not align.
Sex refers to male and female, and let's go with your gender identity is whatever you choose. Fine.
Sex refers to male and female? Yes, we can be of male or female sex. Gender identity can also be referred to as male or female, and we don't choose it. I know you're acting confused for show to make it seem like I'm being unclear or contradictory, while in reality everyone is getting it but you, so you just sound genuinely stupid. But someone of male sex and female gender identity should be called a trans man. I have never heard that once.
I'm just going to accept this as true, just to see where this takes us logically. Okay, let's do that.
Is it going to take us to you remaining a willfully ignorant douche nozzle who refuses to learn anything no matter how clearly it's explained to you? I bet it will. That is where the confusion arises, when people insist that one term must encapsulate both phenomena at once.
Cool, let's not do that then. The biological reality of your sex is different from the social construct of your gender identity.
You've spent the entire video so far whining about me explaining that gender identity is rooted in neuroanatomy, only to now frame it as a social construct. Pick a lane, moron. Are you going to actually engage with anything I'm saying in an honest way? How do you have followers? Gender identity is part of biological reality. Brains are real.
So you are a man or woman, and then a man who transitions to a woman is now a trans woman, but a biological man.
Being trans doesn't depend on transitioning, genius. You are trans if your sex and gender identity do not align. It does not depend on your actions. It's an identity. If you are born trans and at some point you choose to transition and alter your primary or secondary sexual characteristics to align with your gender identity, that doesn't change your status as a trans person. What else? Trying to contrast trans woman and biological man is literally meaningless. Trans women are individuals born of male sex, and gender identity is also biological. Do you see how you are doing the exact thing I said that all of you morons do? I said that nobody accepts science regarding sex and gender identity, but then denies the language. You said you were going to follow that thread, but you're doing the exact opposite. You're denying everything I said about gender identity.
There are many people who would be fine with that, but what occurs? Let's try it and see if if they will even allow that to occur.
Try what? Who would allow what to occur? What the hell are you rambling about? Also, are you really going to overlay this shitty melodramatic stock music for the rest of the video? Someone of male sex and female gender identity should be called a trans man. I have never heard that once.
Really? Because I just said that, but...
No, you said biological man, because you still don't know what trans means, even though I've explained it to you in 3 separate videos. This is why the title of this video is Warren Smith is Dumb. You're not faking it for a following. I'm pretty sure you really are this stupid. To be clear, one could make the case that this is a defensible position. It is one that acknowledges every aspect of the science we described.
Okay.
It is a strictly semantic position, though undoubtedly one that is callous and lacking empathy.
Okay, so now to do that, though, to play by your rules that you've just laid out, is callous and lacks empathy, though. You lay out these 4 categories, but then you say, we can't use these 4 categories.
What in the sweet fuck are you talking about? Where in my explanation of what these 4 categories mean did I tell you not to use these categories? You're like if a meme of a confused Keanu Reeves from Bill and Ted became a real person. Cis man, cis woman, trans man, trans woman. It is physically impossible to explain this any more clearly, and instead of engaging with it, you're just making up a thing I didn't say. Pathetic. But it's totally moot because I have never heard anyone make this argument.
Even you are using these categories to make this video because it would be impossible to explain this without using these categories.
Hey dumbass, we can and should be referring to people by these labels. Is this really all you have?
You have this scientist on Piers Morgan. When he does that very thing, you attack him.
They can say they're a woman, and I will respect their self-identification to the extent of using she and their preferred pronouns.
And yet it's still not enough.
Yes, it's not enough to pretend to be respectful towards trans people while you are spewing buckets of transphobic propaganda on a large television program.
But as a biologist, no.
So you're acknowledging their female gender identity and female pronouns and pretending that they somehow claim to be of female sex, which they don't, and nobody says that they are.
If this response we just heard is not adequate, that is what you are doing, Professor Dave.
Wow, you played a clip of me saying something, didn't understand it, didn't even attempt to respond to it, and just said my name in a smug tone. Sick burn, bro.
It's the insistence that you're right is causing the pushback.
No, it's bigoted morons like you who cling to your bigotry in the face of facts that hurt your feelings. That's what's causing the pushback. This is why discussion with transphobes never goes anywhere. They are totally disinterested in dialogue. They are constantly having an imaginary argument with a fabricated opposing view that they've concocted in their minds.
What your little illustration here shows, that's exactly what you're saying when you make a statement like that.
So you just spent the entire video doing exactly what I said people like you do in this clip you just played, and your response is no you. Amazing. There are people who are so angered by this and so off-put by this and want to fight this so bad. They don't want there to be trans people. They just don't want it to be a thing that exists.
To acknowledge that as a logical flaw doesn't mean that I don't want trans people to exist.
You are trying to erase their identity by denying its validity. So yes, you don't want trans people to exist.
I think this is where you're going to lose people when you start claiming that men can have babies.
Jesus fucking Christ, do you have zero shame? Can you make it any more obvious that you have zero interest in good faith dialogue? I know you watched me tear this straw man apart in my peers video, so you're just going to ignore that and keep spewing this crap? Seriously?
Trans man can have a baby. You don't allow for those different categories. This is what happens. It leads to a statement as nonsensical as this. And I don't think it's fair to call that willful ignorance.
This isn't me cutting out context, by the way. This is how his own video is cut, from top to bottom. Yes, trans men can have babies because they have uteruses. And your response to that is to whine about me not allowing for categories? Who is not allowing what? What is nonsensical? You are saying literally nothing. When you plug your ears and ignore everything I say over 3 videos, and then come back with total non sequiturs and nuh-uh, that is the definition of willful ignorance. And this is no joke, that is the end of the video. It fades out as he trails off, desperately trying to make some kind of coherent point and failing miserably. But not before thanking the 5 people stupid enough to give him money this month, one one of whom is Disco Perv. Quite the fan base you have there, Warren. And of course, his fans are exactly who you think they would be. Confused toddlers who follow a guy like Warren that is physically incapable of making a coherent point, so that they can feel better about lacking that ability themselves. He contradicts himself. He talks in circles. No, you're just all really stupid. He's like the other smart person I don't like. Trans is like Flat Earth, and when I trolled his channel with my hatred and stupidity, he rightfully insulted me, which I will characterize as losing his mind, so I can feel better about being a pointless incel. They always conflate sex and gender. Yes, in my videos where I am trying to teach people that sex and gender are different, I somehow conflate them, a thing I obviously and objectively never do. Words are made up? That's stupid. Of course words existed before human brains and mouths. Nobody changes their sex, a thing that has nothing to do with being trans. I could go on for hours, but I refuse to subject myself to that kind of torture. As I've stated multiple times before, transphobes are the new flat earthers. They are utterly impervious to facts and completely allergic to good faith discussion. There's just no point in continuing to make content about this topic, because all you get in return are asshats like Warren and Walsh who make ridiculous response videos ignoring everything I say, continuing to spew the precise talking points I debunk, doing nothing but capitalizing on the stupidity of their viewers. And for every right-wing reactionary charlatan that gets discredited, there are 5 more copycats like Warren to spring up in their place, because the anti-woke mind virus tearing through the public has made being a smug, bigoted tool on the internet a viable business model. This topic in particular is just so maddening, so exhausting to try and discuss because of how completely unwilling certain people are to hear or learn anything. I would say that I'm done with it, but I've said such things before, so I guess we'll just see what happens. In the meantime, I have bigger fish to fry. So that's it for Warren Smith, a pointless buffoon who probably didn't deserve his own video, but enough people pointed me in his direction that I decided to make one anyway. With any luck, even the figures he so desperately emulates will soon fade into obscurity, along with him and the rhetoric they all endlessly recycle. Until next time,